Welcome to Lotus Light Teachings. Here, we explore timeless wisdom and practical insights to help you live with clarity, peace, and joy. Today, we're diving into the transformative journey of living alone and living abundantly. Let's walk this path together and discover the beauty of solitude and self-discovery. Thank you for joining us. Your journey begins now. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a quiet room bathed in soft, golden light. The hum of the world outside is barely audible, and for once you feel an expansive stillness. What does this silence say to you? Does it whisper a story of peace, or does it stir an ache of loneliness? Solitude, it's a word that can carry many meanings. For some, it symbolizes freedom. For others, it evokes fear. But what if I told you that solitude, when embraced, can be the doorway to a life of abundance? Buddha himself discovered profound truths in the embrace of silence, in moments when the world faded away, leaving only the essence of existence. Welcome to Lotus Light Teachings. Today, we're not just talking about living alone. We're diving into the art of living fully. Alone. Together, we'll explore how solitude, rather than being a void, can become a canvas upon which we paint the most vivid picture of our lives. Have you ever wondered, who am I when no one else is around? In this space of solitude, without the noise of the outside world, you might find the answer, a version of you untethered by expectations, a version of you rooted in clarity, peace, and authenticity. Over the next few moments, let's take this journey together. Think of this not as advice but as a shared exploration. You are not alone in this. I am here, and so are countless others who have walked this path. With the timeless guidance of Buddhist wisdom and the resonance of real stories, we'll uncover how living alone can teach us to live abundantly. There's a unique stillness to solitude. It's the kind of quiet that isn't just the absence of noise, but a space filled with potential. A canvas waiting for your brushstrokes. Have you ever paused to notice it? The soft hum of a fridge in the background, the rhythmic ticking of a clock, or the faint rustle of leaves outside your window. In these sounds, subtle and unassuming, lies a profound invitation to turn inward, to explore the vast expanse of yourself. Living alone, at first glance, can feel like standing on the edge of a vast, empty field. It's unfamiliar, daunting even. Yet Buddhist wisdom teaches us that solitude isn't emptiness, it's fullness waiting to be discovered. Buddha himself sought silence and isolation, retreating into the forest, not to escape the world, but to find clarity within it. Solitude wasn't his burden. It was his gift. Let me tell you about Emma. She's a young professional, thriving in her career yet apprehensive as she moves into her first apartment alone. On her first night, the silence feels heavy, almost oppressive. She reaches for her phone, scrolling aimlessly through social media to fill the void. But something stops her. A thought, perhaps small but persistent. What if I tried sitting with this silence? And so she does. At first, the quiet feels like a stranger. Awkward and unfamiliar. But as days pass, Emma begins to see it differently. She buys a small journal and starts writing each morning, her thoughts spilling out onto the page. It's messy at first. Fragments of worries, plans, and emotions. Yet, as her routine takes root, she notices patterns in her thoughts and clarity in her emotions. She's discovering not just what she feels, but why she feels it. One morning, as she sits by the window with her journal, a beam of sunlight filters through the glass, landing on the table. She pauses mid-sentence, captivated by the simplicity of the moment. This is peace, she thinks. It's not grand or loud. It's quiet, like a soft breeze brushing past. Solitude, Emma realizes, isn't the absence of others. It's the presence of herself. In our fast-paced world, where silence is often drowned out by notifications and noise, Emma's story reminds us of the transformative power of being alone. Solitude is like a mirror. It reflects who we are when there's no one else around to define us. And while this can feel uncomfortable at first, it's in these quiet moments that we uncover our truest selves. You don't need to retreat to a forest to experience this. Start small. Mornings, for instance, are perfect for creating rituals that anchor you in the present. Imagine lighting a candle, its soft glow casting warm shadows as you sit in silence, focusing on your breath. Or perhaps journaling, as Emma did, letting your thoughts flow freely without judgment. These practices aren't just activities, they're acts of self-connection. Solitude also invites us to simplify our lives. When Emma began living alone, she noticed how cluttered her space felt. Drawers overflowing with things she didn't need, countertops crowded with objects that offered little joy. Inspired by her newfound quiet, she started decluttering not just her home but her mind. Each item she let go of felt like a weight lifted. Her space became lighter, and so did her thoughts. Decluttering isn't just about organization. It's a metaphor for life. When we release what no longer serves us, we make room for what truly matters. Think about your own environment. Are there objects, habits, or even relationships that feel more burdensome than enriching? Solitude gives us the clarity to see these things for what they are. Yet, perhaps the most beautiful gift of solitude is its ability to reframe loneliness. We often use the two words interchangeably, but they're not the same. Loneliness is the longing for connection, while solitude is the joy of connection with yourself. Emma found this shift profound. Instead of resisting her alone time, she began cherishing it. She started to see her apartment not as an empty space but as a sanctuary, a place where she could rest, reflect, and grow. One evening, Emma prepared a simple dinner. She set the table, lit a candle, and ate in silence. First, it felt strange, but then something changed. She tasted her food more deeply, noticed the textures and flavors in a way she hadn't before. She wasn't just eating, she was present. This act of mindful dining became one of her favorite rituals, a reminder that even the most ordinary moments can be extraordinary when we truly experience them. As Emma's story illustrates, living alone is more than just a logistical change. It's an emotional and spiritual journey. It's about learning to sit with yourself, to listen to the whispers of your heart, and to find peace in your own company. If you're embarking on a similar journey, remember that it's okay to feel uncomfortable at first. Growth often starts at the edge of discomfort. Begin by carving out small pockets of quiet in your day. Sit with your thoughts, even if they feel messy or overwhelming. Light a candle. Write in a journal. Walk slowly and notice the world around you. The rustling leaves, the colors of the sky, the sound of your own breath. These moments of quiet are not just pauses in life. They are life itself. And so, solitude becomes not a challenge but a gift. It teaches us that we are enough as we are. It shows us that peace doesn't come from adding more but from embracing less. In the stillness, we find ourselves. And in finding ourselves, we discover a fullness that no noise, no crowd, no external validation can ever provide. Now, imagine yourself sitting in your own space. The world outside hums along, but here, within these walls, there is quiet. It's not an emptiness, it's a presence, rich and alive. This is your solitude. What will you discover in its embrace? Loneliness is like the soft murmur of wind in an empty field. It stirs something deep within, a mixture of ache and awareness, a yearning for connection. Yet, have you ever considered that loneliness, much like the wind, has a purpose? It sweeps through our lives not to break us but to remind us of something profound, the beauty of our shared humanity and the depth of our connection to the world. Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us that all emotions, even the heaviest ones, are impermanent. They come and go like passing clouds, leaving us with the gift of understanding if we choose to listen. Loneliness is no exception. It is not a life sentence but a teacher, guiding us toward growth and deeper connection, not just with others, but with ourselves. High in the mountains, there was a monk who understood this well. His days were filled with silence, his only companions the rustling trees and the distant hum of a river. At times, loneliness would creep into his heart, a heavy, familiar weight. But rather than resisting it, he chose to sit with it, to breathe with it. Loneliness is not here to harm me, he thought, but to teach me patience and connection. Each evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the monk would meditate, observing the feeling of loneliness without judgment. Over time, the ache softened, transforming into something unexpected: peace. Loneliness, when embraced, becomes a bridge rather than a barrier. It allows us to understand our needs more deeply, our longing for love, friendship, and connection, and teaches us to cherish these bonds when they appear in our lives. It also offers us a mirror, reflecting who we are when all distractions are stripped away. Who are you truly when no one else is around? In the quiet moments of solitude, you might find a gentle invitation to turn inward. Loneliness can be a fertile ground for creativity. Imagine picking up a brush and letting colors flow freely across a canvas, or writing a letter, not to anyone specific, but to yourself. The act of creating is a powerful way to channel the emotions that loneliness brings. Each stroke, each word, becomes a testament to your resilience and ability to transform pain into beauty. One evening, a young woman named Clara sat by her window, a notebook in her lap. She was newly single, her apartment now filled with an unfamiliar silence. At first, she resisted the loneliness, filling her time with endless distractions. But something felt missing. One night, she decided to face the quiet head-on. She began to write, not structured essays or polished entries, but raw, unfiltered thoughts. With each sentence, she felt lighter. Her notebook became her confidant, a safe space where she could pour out her heart. In those pages, she discovered not just her loneliness, but her strength and creativity. The Buddhist practice of loving-kindness meditation, or metta, offers another powerful way to navigate loneliness. It begins with a simple intention: to extend kindness to yourself. Picture yourself sitting quietly, breathing deeply. With each inhale, imagine drawing in compassion for your struggles. With each exhale, imagine releasing that compassion outward to a friend, a stranger, even someone who has caused you pain. This practice reminds us of our interconnectedness, that even in moments of solitude, we are part of a greater whole. As you sit with your loneliness, remember that it's a shared human experience. Everyone at some point has felt the pang of isolation. This awareness alone can be comforting, like finding a kindred spirit in the midst of a storm. Tells you are not alone in feeling alone. And isn't that a paradoxical yet beautiful truth? Connection, however, doesn't always have to be grand or immediate. Sometimes it begins in small, deliberate steps. Perhaps it's joining an online group centered around a hobby you love, or volunteering for a cause close to your heart. The act of reaching out, even in the smallest ways, plants seeds of connection that grow over time. Remember, community doesn't have to be large. Even one meaningful relationship can bring profound warmth to your life. Let's not forget the power of nature in soothing loneliness. Have you ever taken a walk through a quiet park or sat by the ocean, letting the sound of waves wash over you? In those moments, you might feel a connection not just to the world, but to something much larger, the rhythm of life itself. Nature has a way of reminding us that we are never truly alone. We are part of an intricate, beautiful web of existence. Loneliness also encourages us to cultivate self-compassion. It asks us to treat ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a dear friend. Imagine someone close to you feeling isolated. What would you say to them? Likely words of reassurance, empathy, and love. Now try turning those words inward. Say them to yourself and mean them. It's okay to feel this way. This moment will pass. You are enough. There's a story about a man who, during a difficult period of loneliness, started baking bread every week. He didn't have a family to share it with, so he gave it to his neighbors. The simple act of kneading dough, of watching it rise and transform, became a metaphor for his own journey. Through his loneliness, he discovered joy in giving, in creating, and in connecting with those around him, even in small ways. As we explore the gifts that loneliness can bring, it's essential to remember that it's not about glorifying the feeling, but learning from it. It's about finding balance between being with yourself and reaching out to others. Just as the monk in the mountains found peace in the whispering winds, you too can find peace in the quiet of your own heart. So, the next time loneliness visits, welcome it as you would an old friend. Sit with it, listen to what it has to say, and let it guide you toward growth. In its embrace, you might discover not just the ache of being alone, but the beauty of being alive, connected, and deeply human. There's something quietly powerful about learning to stand on your own. It's not the loud confidence of showing the world what you can do, but the gentle strength that comes from knowing, deep down, that you can take care of yourself. Living alone invites this discovery in ways that few other experiences can. It's a journey of building, not just a life, but also a relationship with yourself. The Buddha spoke often of balance, of the middle path that lies between extremes. This wisdom applies beautifully to the art of self-sufficiency. True independence isn't about doing everything alone or shutting others out. It's about learning what you can handle, seeking help when needed, and appreciating the interplay of effort and support. Let me tell you about a carpenter who lived in a small village, tucked away at the edge of a sprawling forest. His name was Arun. He had a modest workshop, filled with the scent of freshly cut wood and the quiet hum of tools in motion. Arun lived alone, and his days were spent crafting furniture, tables, chairs, cabinets, each piece a labor of love. At first, his solitude felt like a challenge. Each nail he hammered, each board he sawed, reminded him of the weight of doing everything himself. Yet as time passed, Arun began to notice something transformative about his work. The act of shaping raw wood into something functional and beautiful mirrored the changes within himself. Each creation wasn't just a piece of furniture. It was a reflection of his patience, his skill, and his growth. One evening, as the golden light of the setting sun poured through the cracks in his workshop, Arun sat back and admired a chair he had just finished. Its lines were simple yet elegant, its structure strong yet inviting. In that moment, he realized that self-sufficiency wasn't just about the end result. It was about the journey. The process of sanding, measuring, and assembling taught him mindfulness. The small imperfections he had learned to embrace reminded him of life's inherent imperfections. Arun's story carries a profound lesson. Self-sufficiency is deeply fulfilling, not because it's easy, but because it's transformative. It teaches you patience and perseverance. It allows you to look at something you've done, whether it's cooking a meal, fixing a leaky faucet, or budgeting your expenses, and say, "I did that." You don't need to be a carpenter to feel this sense of accomplishment. It can start with something as simple as cooking for yourself. Imagine standing in your kitchen, surrounded by the hum of the stove and the clinking of utensils. You're chopping vegetables, stirring sauces, and tasting as you go. Each step is an act of mindfulness, a way to nourish not just your body but also your spirit. The meal you create is more than just food. It's a small victory, a reminder that you are capable. Managing your finances can be another step in this journey. It's not just about paying bills or saving money. It's about making choices that reflect your values. When you decide to spend wisely or save for something meaningful, you're practicing self-care on a deeper level. You're taking responsibility for your future, showing yourself the kindness of preparation. Even mundane tasks like cleaning or organizing can become acts of empowerment. Have you ever noticed how satisfying it feels to tidy up your space? To fold freshly laundered clothes, stack dishes neatly, or arrange your books in a way that feels just right? These small acts remind you that you have the power to shape your environment, to create a space that feels like home. Yet, self-sufficiency isn't about isolating yourself or refusing help. It's about understanding your limits and knowing when to reach out. Imagine Arun in his workshop, struggling to lift a heavy beam on his own. It's not weakness for him to call a neighbor for assistance. It's wisdom. Similarly, in our own lives, seeking help is not a sign of failure but a recognition of our interconnectedness. Living alone also teaches you to appreciate the value of time and effort. It encourages you to slow down and focus on the process rather than rushing toward the outcome. When you're assembling furniture, planting a garden, or even writing a journal entry, there's something meditative about being fully present in the task. You start to notice the small details. The grain of the wood, the texture of the soil, the flow of your thoughts. And these moments of awareness become a form of mindfulness. Self-sufficiency also has a moral dimension. When you learn to take care of yourself, you develop a deeper respect for others. You begin to understand the effort behind the things people do for you, whether it's a meal cooked with care, a kind word offered in passing, or help given in a moment of need. This awareness fosters gratitude and humility, qualities that enrich your relationships and your character. Consider how self-sufficiency applies to your relationships with others. When you're independent, you're less likely to rely on others for your sense of worth or happiness. This doesn't mean you don't need people. It means you can approach relationships from a place of wholeness rather than neediness. You're able to give and receive more freely because you're not looking to others to fill gaps in yourself. Let's return to Arun one last time. As his skills grew, so did his confidence. But he never forgot the importance of community. On weekends, he would invite neighbors to his workshop, teaching them basic woodworking skills. In return, they shared stories, laughter, and advice. Arun's self-sufficiency didn't isolate him. It connected him to others in meaningful ways. In many ways, living alone mirrors Arun's journey. It's an opportunity to build something, not just a home or a routine, but a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. It's about learning to rely on your own abilities while recognizing the beauty of interdependence. It's about finding empowerment in the small victories of everyday life. So, as you navigate this path, remember to embrace the process. Learn a new skill, not just for the sake of accomplishment, but for the joy of learning. Turn routine tasks into moments of mindfulness, where the journey matters as much as the destination. And don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. True self-sufficiency is about knowing your limits and respecting them. In the quiet of your own space, as you fold laundry, chop vegetables, or reflect on your day, know that these small acts are shaping something much larger. They're building a foundation of independence, a sense of empowerment, and a life filled with quiet strength. There's a quiet magic in the early morning when the world feels like it's holding its breath. The hum of distant traffic is softer, the light is gentler, and the air carries a sense of possibility. It's in these moments, when everything around you is calm, that you can begin to feel the stirrings of something deep within. A kind of peace that doesn't depend on what's happening outside, but comes entirely from within you. Inner peace is a treasure, yet it often feels elusive. We chase it in busy schedules, in achievements, or even in distractions, hoping that something external will finally quiet the noise inside. But Buddhist teachings remind us of a profound truth. Peace isn't something you find. It's something you cultivate. It grows in the stillness of your mind, in the way you respond to the world rather than how the world treats you. May, a retired teacher, discovered this truth in the simplest of ways. Living alone for the first time after decades of sharing her home, she often felt adrift in her newfound quiet. Her days stretched long and unstructured, and at times, she found herself overwhelmed by a strange sense of emptiness. Yet one morning, she decided to embrace the stillness rather than resist it. May began with a simple ritual, making tea. She would carefully select her favorite teapot, a small, hand-painted ceramic she had bought years ago on a trip to Kyoto. As the water boiled, she would listen to the soft bubbling sound, letting it wash over her like a gentle rhythm. Pouring the hot water over the tea leaves, she'd watch as the steam rose in delicate spirals, catching the morning light in a dance that felt almost sacred. May would sit by her window, the warm cup in her hands, and just breathe. No distractions, no rushing. Just her, the tea, and the moment. Over time, this ritual became the anchor of her mornings. It wasn't just about the tea. It was about the act of being present. May found that in those quiet moments, she wasn't alone at all. She was accompanied by her thoughts, her breath, and the profound realization that peace is not found in avoiding solitude, but in embracing it. Meditation, much like May's tea ritual, offers us this same opportunity to connect inward. The practice doesn't require elaborate preparations or long hours of stillness. It starts with something as simple as sitting comfortably and paying attention to your breath. Feel the air as it moves in and out, notice how your chest rises and falls, and allow your thoughts to come and go without judgment. This practice is an invitation to be fully present in your own life, to observe without clinging or resisting. Incorporating meditation into your daily routine doesn't mean you have to renounce the world or spend hours in silence. can be as brief as 5 minutes in the morning, sitting on the edge of your bed, or a moment of stillness before you sleep. These small acts of mindfulness add up, gradually quieting the mental chatter and creating space for peace to grow. Your environment also plays a significant role in nurturing inner peace. A tidy, serene space can help bring clarity to your mind. Imagine walking into a room that feels like a sanctuary, clean surfaces, soft lighting, perhaps a plant or two to bring in a touch of nature. This isn't about perfection. It's about creating a space that invites calm and reflection. Decluttering isn't just about removing physical objects. It's about releasing mental clutter, the noise of too much that can weigh us down. Nature, too, is a profound teacher of peace. A walk in the park, the sound of birdsong, or the sight of trees swaying in the breeze can remind us of the simplicity and beauty of life. These moments ground us, pulling us out of the whirlwind of our thoughts and into the present. May often spent her afternoons strolling through the botanical garden near her home. She found that watching the seasons change, cherry blossoms giving way to lush summer greens, which then turned to autumn's fiery hues, taught her that life moves in cycles, and each moment has its own beauty. Journaling became another tool for May. Each evening, she would sit with her notebook and let her thoughts flow onto the page. Sometimes, it was just a list of things she was grateful for. The kind neighbor who waved to her, the way the sunlight warmed her living room, the peaceful rhythm of her day. Other times, it was a space to release her worries or reflect on her emotions. Writing without judgment helped May better understand herself and gave her the freedom to process her feelings in a safe, constructive way. Finding inner peace doesn't mean erasing all challenges or avoiding discomfort. It's about learning to respond to life's ups and downs with grace and resilience. Buddhist teachings remind us that everything is impermanent. Both joy and sorrow will pass, just as the seasons change. When you accept this truth, you begin to see that peace isn't about avoiding storms but learning to stay calm within them. There's a story about a farmer who owned a small patch of land near a river. One year, heavy rains caused the river to overflow, flooding his fields. While his neighbors lamented the damage, the farmer simply said, "It will pass." As the waters receded and the land began to dry, he tended to his crops with patience. When asked how he remained so calm, he smiled and said, "Peace is not in the river. It's in how you stand beside it." You, too, have the ability to stand beside life's rivers with calm and strength. It begins with small steps, moments of mindfulness, creating a peaceful space, walking in nature, or journaling your thoughts. These practices remind you that peace isn't something you have to chase. It's already within you, waiting to be uncovered. As you sip your morning tea, take a deep breath, or watch the sun set, remember that these moments are more than just pauses. They are the essence of life. In the quiet of your solitude, in the stillness of your heart, lies a peace that no storm can take away. What will you discover when you turn inward and embrace it? Freedom, in its truest sense, is not just about the absence of restrictions. It's about discovering who you are when no one else is watching. It's about the choices you make when there's no one to judge you and the way you spend your time when there's no one to influence you. Living alone offers a rare opportunity to experience this kind of freedom, the kind that allows you to reconnect with your authentic self, to rediscover the things that truly make your heart sing. Imagine the quiet of early morning, when the world is just beginning to stir. The streets are still, the air crisp, and the sky painted with hues of pink and orange as the sun begins its ascent. Alex, a young professional who recently moved to a new city, steps out of his apartment. He ties his running shoes with deliberate care, the only sound the faint rustle of fabric and the soft creak of his shoelaces. The city feels almost deserted at this hour, and for Alex, this solitude is a gift. When Alex first moved, the silence of his empty apartment was overwhelming. Without the constant noise of roommates or family, he found himself faced with questions he had never stopped to ask. What do I truly enjoy? What kind of life do I want to build? It was in this silence that he decided to start running, not for fitness or competition, but for the simple act of being present. Each morning, Alex runs as the sun rises. The rhythm of his footsteps becomes a kind of meditation, the steady beat grounding him as his mind drifts. As he moves through the empty streets, he dreams about his future, sets intentions for his day, and allows himself the freedom to imagine without limits. The world feels expansive, and so does he. Running becomes more than just exercise. It becomes a metaphor for his newfound personal freedom. This sense of freedom aligns beautifully with Buddhist teachings about living authentically. Buddha taught that to live in harmony with oneself, it's essential to strip away the distractions and influences that cloud our minds. When you're no longer shaped by others' expectations, you can finally hear your inner voice. Living alone provides the perfect environment for this kind of introspection. It's a chance to pause, reflect, and align your actions with your values. One of the joys of living alone is the freedom to explore new interests without hesitation. Perhaps you've always wanted to try painting, but the fear of judgment held you back. Or maybe you've dreamt of learning to play an instrument, but life's busyness kept getting in the way. In the quiet of your own space, there's no one to criticize your first attempts, no one to rush you. You can take your time, savor the process, and let curiosity guide you. Alex, inspired by his morning runs, decided to experiment with photography. Armed with a second-hand camera, he began capturing the beauty of the dawn, dewdrops clinging to blades of grass, the play of light and shadow on city buildings, the stillness of a park bench waiting for its first visitor. His photos weren't perfect, but that wasn't the point. Each snapshot was a celebration of the moment, a reminder that beauty exists even in the simplest things. Living alone also gives you the freedom to design your daily routine in a way that truly suits you. Without the need to compromise with others, you can structure your days around what brings you joy and fulfillment. Perhaps you're a night owl who loves the stillness of late hours, or an early riser who thrives in the morning light. You have the freedom to listen to your body and your preferences, creating a rhythm to your life that feels natural and rewarding. Your living space becomes an extension of your personality, a sanctuary where you can express yourself fully. Imagine decorating a room just for you, filling it with colors, textures, and objects that make you feel at home. Maybe it's a cozy reading nook with soft cushions and a stack of books you've been meaning to read. Or perhaps it's a vibrant workspace with inspirational quotes and a vision board for your dreams. This space isn't just a place to live, it's a reflection of who you are and what you value. There's also a profound sense of liberation that comes from making decisions entirely for yourself. Whether it's choosing what to cook for dinner, what to watch on TV, or how to spend your weekends, each decision becomes an act of self-care. You begin to trust your instincts, to value your preferences, and to feel more confident in your ability to navigate life's choices. Of course, personal freedom doesn't mean cutting yourself off from others. It's about finding a balance, enjoying your own company while staying connected to the world around you. Alex, while cherishing his solo runs and photography, also made an effort to join a local running club. It was a way to share his passion with others, to form new friendships, and to feel a sense of belonging in his new city. This balance between solitude and connection enriched his life, reminding him that freedom doesn't have to mean isolation. Living authentically also means embracing your imperfections. When you're alone, there's no need to put on a facade or meet anyone else's standards. You can be messy, make mistakes, and take time to grow without fear of judgment. This self-acceptance fosters a deeper sense of peace and happiness, allowing you to live in harmony with yourself. As Alex's story illustrates, personal freedom is about more than just being physically alone. It's about the emotional and mental space to explore who you are and what matters to you. It's about discovering the joy of doing things your way, at your pace, and for no one but yourself. Imagine yourself in your own space, with the freedom to design your days, pursue your passions, and dream without limits. What would you do? How would you spend your time? Living alone isn't just a logistical arrangement. It's an opportunity to reconnect with your authentic self and to create a life that feels deeply fulfilling. In the quiet of solitude, you find the freedom to be yourself. And in that freedom, you discover not just who you are, but who you're meant to become. The path to abundance doesn't begin with acquiring more. It begins with noticing what is already present. Imagine a single dewdrop on a leaf in the early morning, catching the light of the rising sun. That small, shimmering moment holds as much beauty as an ocean at dawn. Yet, how often do we rush past these dewdrops in life, searching for something larger, something more? Buddha often reminded his followers that true contentment lies not in what we accumulate, but in how we perceive the world. The mind that is constantly grasping for more will always feel empty, while the mind that pauses to appreciate will overflow with joy. Happiness, he taught, is not something found outside of us. It is cultivated within. And one of the most powerful tools for cultivating this happiness is gratitude. There's a story about Sarah, a retired schoolteacher who lived in a small house on the edge of a quiet town. Her days were simple, filled with routines she had built for herself after her children had grown and moved away. But it wasn't always this way. When Sarah first began living alone, she often felt restless, as though something essential was missing. She'd sit by her window in the evenings, watching the light fade, and wonder why her life felt so incomplete despite its calm. One day, a friend gave Sarah a small notebook and suggested she start a gratitude journal. The idea seemed trivial at first, writing down what she was thankful for. How could that possibly change anything? But Sarah decided to give it a try. That night, she wrote her first 3 entries. 1. The warmth of the sun on my face this afternoon. 2. A phone call from my daughter. 3. The smell of lavender from the garden. The act of writing felt strange but comforting. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah's list grew longer. She began noticing the little things she might have overlooked before. The way her tea tasted sweeter when sipped slowly, the soft texture of her favorite blanket, the way her cat stretched out lazily in a patch of sunlight. Each evening, as she filled her journal, Sarah realized that her life was far richer than she had thought. This practice of gratitude didn't just change what Sarah noticed, it changed how she felt. The restlessness that once filled her evenings began to fade, replaced by a quiet contentment. She wasn't simply listing things. She was shifting her focus, teaching herself to see abundance in the present moment. Gratitude, much like Sarah's journal, is a lens through which we can view our lives. When we practice it, we begin to shift our attention away from what we lack and toward what we already have. This doesn't mean ignoring challenges or pretending that life is perfect. It means finding joy even in imperfection, recognizing that every day holds small blessings if we're willing to look for them. Living abundantly also involves simplifying, letting go of what distracts us from appreciating the present. Imagine your home as a reflection of your mind. Cluttered spaces can mirror cluttered thoughts. By decluttering, we create not just physical room but mental clarity. Have you ever cleaned out a drawer or a closet and felt a surprising sense of relief, as though you could breathe more easily? That's the power of simplicity. It's not about having less. It's about valuing what you have more deeply. Think about your day-to-day life. How often do you truly savor a moment? The steam rising from your coffee, the sound of rain tapping against the window, the warmth of a hug. These are all opportunities to practice mindfulness, to immerse yourself fully in the present. When you slow down and truly experience these moments, they transform from ordinary to extraordinary. Mindfulness can be as simple as pausing to notice the colors in a sunset or the way the wind moves through the trees. It's about being present, not just physically but emotionally, allowing yourself to feel grounded in the here and now. When you practice this kind of awareness, you'll find that even the smallest moments can feel abundant. Sarah's story is a reminder that contentment isn't a destination, it's a daily practice. Gratitude and mindfulness are not one-time fixes but ongoing habits that enrich your life over time. And the beauty of these practices is that they don't require anything external. You don't need a special journal or a perfect environment. You only need the willingness to pause and pay attention. Imagine, for a moment, starting your own gratitude practice. At the end of each day, you sit quietly with a pen and paper or even just with your thoughts. You think back over the hours that have passed and choose 3 things to be thankful for. Maybe it's the sound of laughter you shared with a friend, the feeling of soft socks on a chilly morning, or the kindness of a stranger holding the door open for you. These small moments, when noticed and appreciated, begin to weave together, creating a sense of richness that permeates your life. And as you cultivate this sense of abundance, you'll notice that it extends beyond gratitude. It influences how you approach challenges, how you connect with others, and how you view yourself. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, you begin to feel whole, capable, and enough. Finding abundance in the present doesn't mean ignoring aspirations or stopping your pursuit of goals. It means grounding yourself in the now, recognizing that this moment, as it is, holds value. When you approach life from this perspective, even the simplest days can feel full, and even the smallest victories can bring great joy. So, what might you write in your own gratitude journal tonight? What moments from today stand out as blessings? The practice is simple, but its effects are profound. It reminds you that abundance is not somewhere out there, waiting to be found. It is already here, in the quiet rhythms of your life, waiting for you to notice. Conclusion: the abundance within. As our journey draws to a close, let me ask you one last question. What have you discovered about yourself today? Living alone isn't about the absence of others. It's about the presence of yourself. It's the space where you can finally hear your own thoughts, honor your emotions, and understand your dreams. It's a journey that teaches you to transform silence into serenity, loneliness into growth, and independence into empowerment. Remember the carpenter from earlier? The furniture he created in solitude wasn't just about craftsmanship. It was about transformation. Every piece was a reflection of his growth, his strength, his ability to find beauty in being alone. You too are crafting something beautiful. A life of balance, authenticity, and joy. Buddha often reminded us of the impermanence of all things. Today's solitude might be tomorrow's connection. Today's quiet might give rise to tomorrow's wisdom. Each moment alone is an opportunity. A step toward becoming the best version of yourself. So, what will you do with this newfound perspective? Will you sit with your thoughts a little longer, savor your morning coffee a little deeper, or embrace the quiet as a companion? Your journey is uniquely yours, but know this: you are never truly alone. In your solitude, you are connected to the entire universe. The rustle of leaves, the warmth of the sun, the breath of life itself. If this message resonated with you, let's keep the conversation alive. Share your thoughts, your stories, your reflections. Like this video if it brought you clarity, comment below with your personal experiences, and share it with someone who might need a gentle reminder of the beauty in living alone. Thank you for walking this path with me today. Until next time, may your solitude be rich with peace, and may your journey be abundant with growth. You are your own sanctuary. Cherish it.